Hi, my name is Luke Newport. This is my project for CSE. This is project 2. This is the resulting image, but before that, I'm going to show you all the different raw images that I used. This one I took myself at the Huntington Botanical Gardens. This one I also took myself. This one I got off of online, which is a free use image off Pixabay. This is another image that I took in Thailand. The goal is to kind of create this image, which blends the frame of the window, or that whole picture in its entirety with clouds as a texture, and replaces the inside, cuts out the inside, and places two images side by side on the grayscale to create this kind of dark and ominous look. Diving right into my code, I use an abundance of functions for the use of modularity and organization, and for future collaboration, as well as making minor tweaks in the future if I wanted to. It's much easier to work on little tasks on a minuscule level instead of having to look at the entire task as a whole, because it lets me isolate, as well as anybody else isolate, little tasks that ultimately can build up to create a function that might be more specific and have a lot more, just a lot more specific and a lot easier to tackle, just because we're looking at things on an individual and smaller scale. And when you do that, everything adds up to kind of creates this end result, which will ultimately be called altogether in my main function. So for instance, this function tackles the task of removing the center, and this one has the task of replacing magenta, or the center of the image, with another image. It's a lot easier to tackle those in individual functions, so I know what they are in the future. It just makes it a lot more organized in general. Diving right into how this code works, we have my import statements, my documentation for what this needs. Going from top to bottom, we have create image with remove center, which basically will take the center dimensions of the kind of the place where we're going to cut it out. It finds the center of the image, and then it will iterate through the image on a pixel by pixel basis and replace the center images following these dimensions with the color magenta, returning us a modified image that we will use later on. Then we have replace magenta with image, a function that we will use later on, taking 3 parameters. For this one, it kind of does the same thing in enumerating through or indexing through each individual pixel on a pixel by pixel basis, and it will go ahead and check if that pixel is the color magenta. I chose magenta because it's a lot different from every other color that I used in my images and just in general. And if it is, then it goes ahead and replaces it with a new image. And in total, that will give us our end product, but I will get into that later. We have create image from pixels, which is a function that is called numerous times, which returns us this modified image. We have save image, which kind of simplifies this task of having to save the image numerous times, so I can just call save image and give the 2 parameters. We have swap left right, which has the purpose of putting 2 images side by side, aka these 2 images in the center right here. And this is really nice because we have iteration through each pixel, or the entire image, and it will put all the pixels of one image on the left side, on the left half, and all the pixels on the right half, aka creating that swapped image that we will go ahead and use later on to put into a grayscale. Speaking of grayscale, we have our grayscale function, which basically also iterates through each pixel and multiplies it by these different factors, which ultimately turn each pixel into a shade of white, black, or gray, giving us that grayscale. We have process images and return final image, which calls both of those functions to give us that center piece. We have that get common size, which is used to find the minimum size of 2 images that they have in common, which is used inside of this blend images manually function, which goes ahead and iterates through both things. It'll multiply by a blend factor, which is determined by a user, anything between 0 and 1. It'll give us that saved image, which we will use before we cut out the center of the image. Then we have our def main function, which goes ahead and defines all the different, file paths. It goes ahead and calls all the functions, following that order of this order right here, which I can get into. And we have our main function, which calls everything in total. And if we go ahead and run that, we have our result image. Boom. And for any further clarification, right here at least, we have blend images manually, which blends the 2 images at the start of the frame and the clouds. Then it goes ahead and removes the center of that blended image and replaces it with magenta. It'll then go ahead and save that image so we can use it later on. It'll process 2 images, and basically that function again takes the 2 images, swaps them, puts them into a grayscale, and then we go ahead and replace it magenta with that grayscale image, and that is our final results.